Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever stood in the middle of a small town just after sunset? When the sky bleeds orange and purple, when the cicadas start singing, and everything, every house, every tree, every porch light, seems to hold its breath. That moment, just before true nightfall, when the shadows start stretching across gravel roads and behind barns and cornfields. That's when you feel it. The stillness, the presence, the weight of things unsaid. That's where horror lives. Not in the chaos of the cities, not in the bright lights or sirens or speeding taxis. Horror, real horror, lives in the quiet corners of forgotten places. In the backwoods, the empty fields, the roads without names. In small towns that wear smiles by day and lock their doors hard by night. These places, they hold stories. Not the kind you find in bestsellers or ghost tour pamphlets. I'm talking about real stories. True stories. Stories with roots. Stories that towns try to bury, but the ground never holds. Stories that keep the lights on a little longer and sleep away a little further. Let me take you to one such town. It could be anywhere in America. Ohio, let's say. One of those towns where everyone knows your name and kids ride bikes in the middle of a street. A little boy named Danny was invited to a birthday party. Just a regular sleepover. Movies, snacks, video games. The whole group, 7 or 8 kids, tucked away in the finished basement of a modest little home on a quiet street. At some point, the laughter died down. The snacks were gone. The lights dimmed. The kids crawled into their sleeping bags, and the hum of dreams settled in. Morning came. Mothers arrived to pick up their kids. And that's when they noticed Danny was gone. At first, they thought he'd walked home. Or wandered outside. But there was no sign of him. They found him eventually. He was 2 blocks away. Dead. Still zipped tightly inside his sleeping bag. Lying in the middle of the road. No signs of trauma. No footprints. No witnesses. Nothing. Just silence. The other kids remembered nothing. Said they slept through the whole night. Not one scream. Not one noise. That's what haunts me. Not the death itself. But that something or someone could steal a child from a room full of sleeping kids, and no one noticed a thing. That story never made national news. It was a local tragedy, whispered about in church parking lots and over fences. And when outsiders ask, people say it was an accident. A mystery. But they don't talk about it much. Because deep down, they know it wasn't normal. And maybe they're afraid it might happen again. Now, let's head west. Not far. Maybe Nebraska or Kansas. Another small town. Flatlands. Wind that never stops blowing through tall grass. A woman walked into a JCPenney parking lot one summer afternoon, blood on her clothes, a baby in her arms. She was screaming, shaking. She told the 911 operator she'd just given birth. Said she'd gone into labor in her car. Alone. No one thought to question her, until the medics looked closer. The baby was too clean. The cord was too perfectly cut. And then they found her, just 30 feet away. Another woman. Dead. Her stomach cut open. The child taken from her womb. The woman holding the baby hadn't given birth at all. She'd stolen life. She'd taken it from another mother's body. How do you live in a town after something like that? How do you ever walk past a parked car without wondering what horror it might contain? The woman was arrested, yes. But the story, the dread of it, never really left. People talk about it like it was a bad dream. But the child lived. Somewhere, that child is growing up. Maybe never knowing how he was born into the world. Or maybe knowing too much. There's no good way to make sense of that kind of evil. You just learn to live beside it. Or try to. There's a little school in Wisconsin that used to have a math teacher named Mr. Harlan. He wasn't particularly remarkable. Not a favorite, not hated. Just quiet. Taught geometry. Loved crossword puzzles. One Tuesday morning, he didn't show up for class. And he didn't show up the next day either. By the 3rd day, the principal sent someone to check on him. What they found shattered the entire community. Mr. Harlan and his wife had been killed, brutally. The police called it a rage killing. The walls of the bedroom were painted in blood. The wife had tried to escape, made it all the way to the edge of the woods before collapsing. There were signs of a struggle. Footprints. Broken branches. But no fingerprints. No motive. No forced entry. No suspects. Just blood. They cleaned the house. Sold it. Someone new lives there now. But the school still keeps Mr. Harlan's photo in the hallway. And students swear, that sometimes when they pass his old classroom, they hear chalk on a board. Even though the boards are all white now. Even though the door is locked. Even though there's no one inside. One janitor quit after hearing sobbing echo down the hall every night at 2:17 a.m., the exact time of death on the autopsy. You can call it coincidence, or you can call it what it is. That sometimes places remember what happened. And sometimes they weep. Somewhere in the Northeast, there's a road with no name. Locals call it Whistler's Lane. It's more of a path than a road. Overgrown. Cracked. No streetlights. It winds through the forest like it's trying to lose you. They say if you drive down it after midnight, your car might stall. Not from engine failure. Not from gas. Just stop. And when it does, the whistling starts. First distant, like wind slipping through leaves. Then louder. Closer. Inhuman. A long, slow tune with no rhythm. Just breath and sorrow. One man claimed he drove it once with his girlfriend. They laughed at the legend. They joked. Until their headlights flickered. And the engine cut off. He tried to start it again. Nothing. Then he looked up and saw someone standing just beyond the trees. Not moving. Not speaking. Just staring. The whistling grew louder. He locked the doors. Rolled up the windows. But the sound came from inside. Right behind them. He turned, and there was nothing. Just empty seats. But the next morning, when he finally got the engine started, he found 2 handprints smeared on the inside of the rear windshield. The girlfriend never spoke about it again. They broke up 3 weeks later. He moved away. But sometimes on especially quiet nights, if you listen closely, you can hear it. That slow, breathy song that doesn't belong to anyone still living. And then there's Boy Scout Lane. It exists. You can find it on a map. A road in Wisconsin that leads nowhere. The land around it was once purchased to build a Boy Scout camp, but it never happened. Still, people claim a troop once went missing there. No one agrees on how. Some say it was a fire. Some say the scoutmaster snapped and killed them all. Some even claim the boys ran into the woods and were never seen again. No records exist. Just stories. But those stories are consistent. People report seeing small figures moving through the trees. Flashlights flickering. The sound of boots crunching leaves. One woman said she was walking her dog there when it froze. Started growling at nothing. Then she heard a voice, small, young, barely above a whisper, say, "We're still cold." Her dog ran. She followed. Never went back. Paranormal investigators have gone there. Many leave shaken. Some refuse to speak. One took a photo in the woods and swore there were no people present. But when the film developed, there they were, 3 boys in uniform, blurred, translucent, staring directly into the lens. Not smiling, just watching. These are not urban legends. These are not tales born in fiction. These are real, documented, witnessed, and felt. They live in newspaper clippings, court records, photos, whispers, and in memory. That's the thing people don't realize about small towns. They remember. They don't always talk, but they never forget. Stories settle into the soil, into the wood of old barns and the rust on mailbox hinges. They get passed down not through books, but through glances, through silence, through the places people avoid, the corners children fear, the roads no one drives after sunset. Horror doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to scream. In fact, the most terrifying things are often silent, hidden behind smiles and small talk, dressed up in Sunday clothes, walking to church like nothing happened. But something did. It always does. And in towns like these, it's never as far away as it seems.